I want us to take a break from all the chaos happening across East Africa and focus on Namibia, because this small Southern African country just pulled off something every African should be proud of. While the rest of us are drowning in debt, IMF visits and political drama, Namibia quietly paid off a $750 million Eurobond in one single day. Let's clap for Namibia. One single day. And I know the big question is, how did they do it when others like Kenya and Uganda are still struggling with debt? I'll walk us through that in a few, but allow me to walk you through what a Eurobond is. So when you hear your government is receiving one, you can have a better understanding. So a Eurobond is just a fancy word for a loan a country takes from foreign investors. But instead of borrowing from one person or one bank, the country borrows from many investors across the world by selling them bonds. Here's how it works. Now, the country needs money, right? Maybe to build roads, hospitals, or pay other debts. But local taxes or banks can't cover it. So the government says, let's borrow money from the international market. They create a bond and a promise that says, we will borrow 750 million today and we will pay you back in 10 years plus interest. Foreign investors buy these bonds, and then these investors could be big institutions like pension funds, banks, or even wealthy individuals from different countries. They are lending Namibia money because they believe the country will pay it back with interest. And why is it called a Eurobond? It is not necessarily from Europe. The word euro just means the bond is issued in an international currency like the US dollar and sold in markets outside the borrower's country. So in this case, Namibia's Eurobond was a US dollar bond sold in the global market. When the bond matures after the agreed number of years, say for example 10, Namibia must pay back the full amount it borrowed, and that is what just happened. They reached the maturity date and cleared the 750 million loan in one day. And guys, I know you're asking, Lynn, why does this all matter? Because it shows how trustworthy a country is with its money. It's people's money. If a country pays back on time, investors do what? They trust it more next time. But if it struggles or delays, like some of the countries we know, investors lose confidence and now borrowing becomes harder or more expensive. So in short, a Eurobond is a way for countries to borrow money from the world instead of borrowing only from their citizens, and also promise to pay it back later with interest, usually in a foreign currency like the dollar. Sawa. Now, let's take a look at Namibia's Eurobond. In 2015, Namibia borrowed 750 million US dollars from international investors. It was a 10-year loan with an interest rate of about 5.25%, meaning every year Namibia paid investors the interest for lending it the money. When the repayment date finally came this year, Namibia had already prepared. Keyword, prepared. They had a savings account called a sinking fund where they had been keeping money little by little every year. So they know we owe people and in 10 years we need to pay them back this money. So we are going to create a fund where we deposit small savings because we know at the end of 10 years we gotta pay. So now we are not bothering the civilians, telling them how we have loans and we need to clear. No. The government is prepared and they know they owe someone and they know we have to pay this debt. So by the time this debt is due, they had already saved what? 444 million USD of it. Clap for Namibia. And the remaining amount, around 306 million, was raised through local banks inside Namibia, including Standard Bank Namibia, Bank Widok or FNB Namibia, couple of banks there. So instead of rushing to borrow from foreigners again to repay that loan, Namibia used its own banks to complete the payment. Good job. Namibia's finance minister said this move shows the world that Namibia is a trustworthy borrower, a country that pays what it owes on time. And she said this will help Namibia in future if it ever wants to borrow money again, because investors now see it as a country that keeps its word. I want us to go to Kenya now and see how Kenya's Eurobond started. Kenya first entered the international borrowing game in 2014 when it issued its first Eurobond worth $2 billion. And that was a big deal. This was the largest in sub-Saharan Africa at the time. The government said the money would fund infrastructure, energy, and roads. And this is where I advocate these details should be very transparent. We need to understand, what did we do with the Eurobond year 2014? Has it done what it was supposed to do? Has it done what it was supposed to do? Anyway, after the first one, Kenya kept borrowing more through other Eurobonds. We have a Eurobond year 2018, 2019, 2021, and so on. So in total, Kenya now owes around 5.2 billion in Eurobonds alone. That is US dollars, in Eurobonds alone. So instead of one single bond, like Namibia's 750 million USD, Kenya has multiple Eurobonds maturing at different times. All right? So let us see why repayment, especially when it comes to Kenya, is a problem. Kenya's first major repayment, that is the 2 billion Eurobond, was due in 2024. And unlike Namibia, we did not have money just sitting around waiting to pay it off. No. And I'll tell you why. Because we don't save enough foreign currency. We can't even account for the bond, the debt alone. A lot of it imekulwa na hao watu wenyu. Anyway, Namibia also had a sinking fund, a savings pot, the one we spoke about, where they keep depositing dollars every year to prepare for the big day. Kenya, Instead, we kept using foreign currency reserves for imports, debt servicing, and other obligations. Our debt is much larger now and more complex. Namibia's total public debt is about 10 billion US dollars. Kenya is about 8 billion. 8 times more, meaning we have dozens of lenders to juggle. You have World Bank, IMF, China, private investors, local banks, etc. Our currency collapsed. When we borrowed in 2014, $1 US was going for around 87 Kenya shillings. By 2024, it had shot. You remember that time the dollar shot to almost around 160. Now it's at 129, right? But there's a time we got to almost 160. So the same 2 billion euro bond now costs almost double if we are speaking about shillings. We are paying more without having borrowed more. Our exports don't bring in enough dollars, and we have completely decided as a country we will keep exporting our raw materials as they are instead of even earning from such things. But when you take a look at Namibia, it earns steady forex from diamonds, uranium, and fish exports. Kenya's main exports, which is tea, coffee, and flowers, in raw form. And this hasn't even grown fast enough to match our dollar debts. That means less dollar income to service dollar loans. We rely too much also on refinancing or taking a loan to repay a loan. Instead of paying old Eurobonds with savings, Kenya often issues new Eurobonds to pay the old ones. That is like taking a new loan now to settle the old one. And this works short term, but it's very risky because global interest rates have gone up, making new borrowing more expensive. Actually, as a country right now, we should be saying we do not want to borrow anymore. Because if we borrowed in 2014, 10, alafu now we are paying almost double. Why? But Kenya hacked this one. I think it was a big event last year in 2024, and the government was flexing around it. They decided they actually paid using part of its foreign reserves, and they also tapped on IMF and World Bank funds, and they also raised about 1.5 billion through a syndicated commercial loan from international banks, basically a rescue loan. I think the rescue loan came from China. And anyway, you guys can correct me on that. That is how the Treasury managed to pay the 2 billion in June 2024. But it came with heavy conditions and more borrowing ahead. We are still borrowing. Instead of saying, let us not borrow. Anyway, let's take a look at the difference here between Kenya and Namibia. Namibia's story is about discipline and savings. Kenya, as we like to borrow to pay. We will borrow this to pay that. Namibia set aside the dollars early and cleared everything in one go. Kenya, we will wait until the last year or the last minute to find money, so that we can be able to avoid defaulting this loan. And the deeper issue here is Kenya's Eurobond problem is not just about one payment. It's about a system. We borrow in foreign currency, but we earn in shillings. Our exports don't generate enough dollars. And we've completely refused to value add our own products. So instead of cutting spending, we refinance debt, which only delays the crisis. Anyways, let's shine a light on this incredible woman in Namibia who is doing incredible things. Her name is Netumbo Nandi Ndaitwah. She became the 5th president of the Republic of Namibia on 21st March this year. She's the first woman to hold this office in Namibia, making her the 2nd female president in Africa. Suluhu, yes, all right. Nandi also has a long career. She was the Deputy Prime Minister, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Minister of Environment and Tourism, Vice President of Namibia, etc., etc. So her CV is very much loaded. She is also a member of the ruling party SWAPO, which has governed Namibia since independence in the 1990s. And now, I want us to take a look at her vision for Namibia because she's getting a lot of praise and people are saying Namibia is actually heading towards a very beautiful trajectory. Her vision is she wants to build a peaceful, inclusive, and resilient democracy that uses the country's human capital and natural resources to create prosperity. That is very important. Then she wants to diversify the economy beyond relying on just a few sectors so that many Namibians can benefit. For example, she wants to increase agriculture, the value addition. She wants to process raw exports, which will definitely reduce youth unemployment. And I have said, I'm not comparing Kenya to Namibia. Obviously, Kenya has a bigger population. But I have always said, and I have always imagined, and guys, tell me what is wrong with this line of thought. We have allocated land worth thousands of acres to these conservancies, right? And I've always said, nothing will ever make me believe that we need conservancies in this country. Conservancies just benefit a few people in this country. But let me walk you back to how I always imagine it. I've allocated land worth 100,000 acres to one single person, and then we have 4 or 5 elephants, 2 cheetahs, and maybe 2 buffaloes in that whole conservancy. And we are saying this is the reason we need to give this as a conservancy or lease this land part of this conservancy, right? And I've always asked myself, can you imagine if Kenya or the government would utilize that land? Because now we know there's a lot of money in sandalwood, right? So why would we not plant sandalwood in those 100,000 acres and have our youths managing these places and farming this particular wood so that it benefits the community? Why do we have to leave a whole 100 acre of land to one person while we have our youths suffering? And we understand there is value in some of our plants, some of our crops. We understand there is value. Ama even in a layman's language, kama kahawa inatupatia pesa, hii mashamba siipandwe kahawa na vijana wafanye kazi huko. We also have youths who are very passionate about farming. But first, they don't even have the land. There's no way you'll do tea farming or even coffee farming in a 50 by 100 na ikupatie value. Anyways, if we are not doing it, other countries are doing it. Nandi's vision also entails improving education and skills, especially for the youth, to prepare them for employment in new sectors. All right? You see why these people will succeed. They are paying attention to the youths, and the youths build a nation or break it. But also part of the vision is high ethical standards and fighting corruption. She's ensuring public service works for the people, not just elites. That is what is happening in majority of our public offices. Unaenda pale, mtu anafata kukusaidia na kuangalia tu. Na unataka aje? Oh, sorry, we are not working today. Or even go to a government office at 3 and there's no one there. Even try going at around 2:30 on a Friday. You won't find anyone to even assist you. Ethics, my people, integrity. Anyways, she's also preparing Namibia to take advantage of global trends. We are talking about green energy, mining, renewable energy. Preparing her people, not just the elite who claim to understand climate change. She's making sure that the youths are also involved. People have an understanding. Okay, so now there's market in carbon credits. Okay, so now how can our youths benefit? Like, make people understand. Don't just limit this information to the people you think deserve to get money after these deals. And she's also ensuring that the wealth generated across the country benefits ordinary citizens. And she's completing long-term national strategies. Right? So, I think we gotta clap for this person. She has something good going on. And she's making sure that her citizens can live with dignity. And you know, there's dignity in paying a loan. There's dignity in walking in a place and paying a $750 million loan. And committing and saying, we used your money and now we want to give it back. If a country cannot even pay its own loan, that country has a problem. You cannot even trust it with your healthcare, your education, or any other infrastructure. Because kama tu loan tu, tunaenda kutafutilia kila. You see the way, wait until you hear we have another Eurobond that we need to pay yenye tujalipa. Oh my God, you'll see how our presidents get tensed, wondering, hii tutatoa wapi? Na sika wananchi, by the way, tumesema, we can contribute. Tulipe hizi loans zote mtuachie nchi. Tulipe tu hizi loans zote mmechukua zenye hazikutusaidia. Then mtuachie nini? Nchi. So, you stop raising sijui VAT ati because we have a loan to pay. And I think Africans, we need to normalize asking the hard questions. You took a loan. Please, account. Cent by cent. How was this used? And it has to be very visible. Also, we built an expressway. Okay, how much was it? Okay, tick. We did this, tick. We did this, tick. All we hear is presidents are taking loans on behalf of their citizens. But we don't see where the money goes. And then you have international organizations like World Bank, IMF, who will happily give you loans so that you guys don't benefit. In the long run, you are still colonized. At the end of the day, if there's one thing that has kept Africa trapped in debt, it's silence. Our governments borrow in our names, but they never tell us where the money goes. We only hear that, oh, a Eurobond was issued or an IMF loan was approved, but no one ever shows the people the receipts. And that is a very bad tragedy because every loan signed in secret becomes a burden carried by the public. The president takes the credit, but the citizens will take the cost. And we must start demanding transparency on every cent borrowed. We have a right to know who we owe, how much we owe, what interest we are paying, and which projects those billions actually fund. Because these loans are not personal, they are national. They are paid back through our taxes, our electricity bills, our fuel prices, our food costs, you know. And no Africa country should ever borrow without publishing a full breakdown of that loan, the purpose, the repayment plan, and the beneficiaries. If the money is for the roads, we must see the roads. Ama, how hard is it, guys? If you say you are taking a loan for the hospitals, please let us see. Let us see beds in these hospitals, medicine, etc., etc. If you're saying you want to power our industries, or you want to industrialize, please let us see, right? Otherwise, we are not going to keep borrowing for development, and then all we are doing is enabling corruption. Now, even if you were to ask this government, where did the money go? What will they say? What will they say? But Namibia has just shown what accountability looks like. They borrowed, they planned, they repaid, and the world saw it happen. There is no secrecy, no confusion, and that is how nations earn respect. Not by how much they borrow. Please, if you want to borrow as much as even 100 billion. But please, let us see, let us be transparent about how we manage what we borrow. We do not need more loans even as Africans. No. We just need to use what we have. We have a lot in this continent. And if we were to use it, value add on all our raw materials, stop exporting things in raw format, we would definitely go far as a continent. So, I don't know what you guys think about this story. It's the first time we are hearing a country borrowed and they marched straight and they paid the money. They marched straight and they paid the money. You get it? So, let us continue advocating for transparency. Let us continue demanding for better. And let us also continue clapping for countries like Namibia when they show us that this is possible. When they show us that you can borrow and you can repay without politics. You didn't hear them politicking about this loan. They knew they owe someone and they saved and they paid when time came. But take a look at even here. Time ya kulipa loan, ile politics inakuanga hapa. It's a lot. It's a lot. But I think we can pick something from Namibia. Let me know also. I think for me, most importantly, it's not whether they paid the debt or the loan. I just want you guys to let me know. Do you think Africa needs this? Because we can't be called a continent full of resources if those resources are not helping us. Why do we keep borrowing if we are a continent full of resources and wealth? Why do we keep borrowing, you know? But I just thought I would give Namibia their flowers. Definitely their president is doing it. She's doing the thing. And it's also good to shine a light to presidents who are doing incredible things. You know, it's a good thing to witness as an African. It's a good thing to witness. But I don't know, I saw we have a lot of people watching us from Namibia as well. If you are new here, welcome. We keep it real here. We try every day to learn and relearn. So if we've said something that you feel, maybe have more details on, please feel free to share that on the comment section. And I hope I catch you guys tomorrow. Welcoming everyone that is new on this platform. I promise if I was to read each and every one of your names, I would. But I just want to welcome the new subscribers to this platform. And thank you, Team LNN, for getting us to 1.43 million subscribers. We do not take that for granted. Continue learning and relearning, and hopefully we catch each other tomorrow. Okay? Bye-bye.